said, Cory Chadwick, that you're like our best friend of the show now, because I think it's the first time I've had a guest on twice. So, and then you're going to be on next week. So there'll be three times within three seasons of Shower for the Soul. And welcome to the season premiere. Welcome back, my friend.
Thank you so much, man. It is an honor to be a friend of the show. For sure.
So you're still with Mental Gym, which is nicely marketed in the back of you. How's that going?
I love the mental gym. I'm really proud of the work we're doing here. I'm so proud of our members for not hiding from wanting to be better in life. Um, Actually, just something last night in the gym that one of our members said is how grateful they are for this opportunity week in and week out to be their best, to continuously work on being their best and not have to like hide that from people, because so much of the time in your life, either at work or at home or something, it's almost like there's this guilt for wanting to be your best, right? This like, who am I to want more? Who am I to want to reach for my 10 and not settle for a 6 or a 7, and to have that place with like-minded people to not only not apologize for it, but keep pushing and keep pushing and keep working together and supporting each other. It's a really special place. So I'm really proud of what we're doing.
Nice. Now, we were talking today about finding new stuff to do. I was doing this because during the pandemic, I was locked down. I was getting all this anxiety. And then I found that I started painting some more. And I started doing a lot of things that I haven't done since like high school. Um, are you finding that too with the mental gym, where people are experimenting with other things out of not panic, but just kind of like not even boredom, but just something like, I need to do something now.
Well, I guess it really depends, because kind of a wide range of members. So for our members who are parents with, say, 2 young kids, then no, they're not thinking that at all. Their life is more hectic now than probably it's ever been. For members who maybe don't have kids or are, single or just at different stages of their lives, yeah, there tends to be more of a, I've got more time. I've got more time to look into things and to explore things. But regardless of where we are in our lives or kind of who it is specifically, we really encourage experimentation all the time. Always be experimenting with something new, something different, tweaking something in your routine, adding something that works, taking away something that doesn't. Not specific to hobbies, but more just, how can I get a little bit better today than I was yesterday? So yeah, we love experimenting.
Now, I was looking onto the interweb and I found 4 tips of leaving your comfort zone. And I want to run them by you. So the first one is find your courage.
Cool. Do you want to go through all 4, or do you want me to? Do you want to talk about each one as we go?
Yeah, let's go through each one. So
Okay,
first
sure.
one is finding your courage.
Yeah, courage is huge. Actually, coincidentally, we were talking about courage this week in the gym too. So you've kind of got 2 extremes. One extreme would be no courage, like being afraid to get out of that comfort zone at all, which means you're really staying safe and small. You're never going for anything, which is not where you want to be in life. The other extreme would be you're just going for everything, taking every chance, not even paying attention to the consequences or anything like that. And you don't want to be there either. But that middle ground is courage. And courage is such a necessary thing for any of us to have in life. Yes, we're going to go through hard times. Yes, we're going to go through adversity, and we need courage for that. But we also need courage to grow and to be better, because by definition, once you're stepping out of your comfort zone, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Well, so you need courage to do that. And yeah, I like that as step 1. Find your courage for sure.
How about avoiding your zone of terror? I like this one.
So I would say that would be that extreme I talked about, where maybe it's too scary. One of the most important things about leaving your comfort zone is that you don't do it in giant leaps. Just like with any change you're making in your life, to avoid those drastic changes, and instead take one small step at a time. Just like we always talk about, like, what would you do if you were eating a bus or eating a dinosaur or eating an elephant, right? How would you do it? One tiny little bite at a time. And that's exactly the same thing with leaving your comfort zone. If we can just stretch a little bit more, not to the point where we're terrified, because then we're much less likely to do it, right? But if we can do it in small steps, not where we're scared or terrified, but maybe we're feeling a little bit of fear, and that's where the courage comes in, then yeah, that's really that's a great spot to be.
One of the things that I took up during the pandemic actually was not even during the scary part, was actually during the summer. It was just last summer where I was, we were coming out of it, but I just felt boredom and I took up knitting
Hmm,
again. I haven't
cool.
done it since high school, but yeah, and there was a lot of um, feeling that terror because it was kind of like, well, this is something totally out of my comfort. It's something I've never haven't done in 20 years,
Hmm,
and there is a lot of still is a lot of frustration because it's kind of like, okay, I need to knit this throw. I need to knit this throw,
hmm,
and I just can't get to the first step.
hmm.
So,
So let's start with, it's one step,
yeah.
right? Before you can knit this throw, you've got to knit one stitch, right? You're never going to get to 1,000 stitches or 1,000,000 stitches. I don't know how many stitches it takes to knit a throw, but it's one stitch. And that's where it starts. For way too many of us, we have this big idea in mind, this big goal, and it's too much to bite off. It's great to have this idea of where you want to go, but to think that I got to get from here to there, like I got to lose 50 pounds, or I got to make so much more money, or I got to, go from miserable and I got to be happy. It's like these big jumps. This is why, a big reason why I say someone would start working out January 1st and they're like, okay, I'm not healthy, but now I'm going to join the gym and I'm going to work out 5 days a week and I'm going to change my diet and I'm going to quit smoking and like all these things. And it's like very well intentioned. We're coming from all the right places, but it's just biting off way too much. And that's scary. That's where that zone of terror comes in. So let's break it down into really small parts. I mean, you can just take it one step at a time. That you might still be a little bit scared if it's something new.
Hmm.
That's a good place to be. Being scared is good because you can't have courage unless you're scared, right? Courage isn't an absence of fear, it's being afraid and doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So that's where we want to be.
Now the third one is allowing yourself to be vulnerable.
Yeah, so vulnerability is one of my absolute favorite, most important things in the world. I believe it's one of those things that people talk about as knowing that it's important, but don't know how to be vulnerable because that can be scary.
Mhm.
It can be scary when you're just being honest and real about who you are, about what you're dealing with or what you're struggling with, about what you really want out of life, about anything. Um, we don't even talk about vulnerability that much using that word. We just talk about being honest. Just be honest all the time. And the truth is, it's a lot easier being honest than it is coming up with a lie or presenting an image of yourself that you want other people to see. Like, that's exhausting. That takes a lot of bandwidth. And keeping that image up all the time. But if you can just be real and honest with who you are and with what life's about to you, not only are you going to find that other people really appreciate it, that you're just being honest and real with them, but you're going to see that we're all dealing with the same stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody's going through a lot of the same stuff. The specifics might be different, but generally we're going through a lot of the same stuff. And just being able to be real and honest and open about it is huge. So be vulnerable. Absolutely. It's going to change your world if you lean into being vulnerable. I can promise you that.
And I find that especially with social media, um, when I came out and said that I'm a mental health advocate,
Mm-hmm.
before that I thought it was kind of like hypocritical if I was doing this podcast and doing rinse and didn't mention anything about what I was going through,
Mm-hmm.
and I found that yeah, I mean, talking about vulnerability, part of this was because I wanted the eyes to be still tuned to my social media so they will be remembered that I have a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But I could have easily have done just crazy ads or funny things and just keep people tuning in, but I chose to um, use that vulnerability and say, hey, you know what, I had a bad day today.
Mm-hmm.
And
And again, who can't relate to that? Who
yeah.
doesn't have bad days? On Instagram, it doesn't look like anybody has bad days, right? It's everyone's living the high life all the time. But what are we really doing on Instagram, right? It's taking the best. You're looking at the highlight reel, right? And you
Yeah.
compare it to your real life blooper reel. That's a hard way to live. You're looking at the best half second of everyone else's day and comparing it to the full 24 hours of your day. And I just imagine what it would be like if it wasn't just the highlight reel, if it wasn't just the smiles and the good times and the look at me, I'm so happy. It was, it was just real. Um, I remember a time I was out for lunch with some friends of mine, and we had our first kids right around the same time. And having kids is hard, man. Like it's the greatest, most wonderful, amazing thing in the world, but it is hard. And it takes up a lot of your time and energy and attention, and it is emotionally exhausting. But so for all of that, to hide from that, to pretend it's not hard is a silly thing. And I was out for lunch with my wife and I were out for lunch with a couple of friends who were having a really tough time. They weren't sleeping well. They're having trouble with their kids, and it was really hard on them. And the whole lunch we were just talking about that and trying to help any way we can and understanding, obviously. And we left lunch, and I happened to, a few minutes later, for whatever reason, I just happened to look at Instagram and saw a post from them saying, oh, we're so blessed, we're so happy, our life is amazing. And my very first thought was, oh, come on, guys, like that's bullshit. Sorry if I don't want me to swear here, but but it is. It's like, it's okay not to just post to tell the world that you're doing great when you're clearly not. And you don't have to say that you're not, but let's stop pretending all the time. Let's stop pretending that we need to show up on Instagram a certain way or present that image of ourselves just because we feel like we have to keep up with everybody else. Like it's a game that we can't win. No one's going to win that game.
And it's like, don't post if you're having a bad day,
or post if you are having a bad day.
Yeah.
Right. Like I think if you're going to post and you want to be a poster, like cool, but just post no matter what.
Yeah.
We all need more real in our lives, every single one of us. And we'd benefit so much by just being real with each other and ourselves.
Very true. Now, the last tip is taking one day at a time, which we were talking about, with the first stitch. Now, I found this because during the pandemic, I did the run for Defeat Depression in London. I was exercising. I was painting. And then I had this weird dream. I forgot exactly what it was, but then I woke up because I thought it was really odd for me to have a certain dream. And I looked at the definition, and it actually means that I'm taking too many things on at once and I have to slow down. And it's like, and I feel that kind of like now because I have shower coming up. I have another run. I'm volunteering for the Sick Kids virtual run for the kids this month. And I have work and I have all these things. And it's just like, I need to keep busy. By the same time, it's kind of like I need, just like this example for this episode. After I finish editing this episode, I can't wait for this to be released. I can't wait for Wednesday when it gets dropped. I might release it today. I don't know. So, I need everything at once. In Guyanese terms, it's called having a big eye. You take way too much stuff on the plate and you won't be able to finish it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you and a lot of people, right? It's hard. It's hard to, there's this kind of like old entrepreneur's badge of honor that, work 20-hour days and just run yourself to the ground to do what you have to do. And I've always thought that was terrible advice because, I think being busy is great. Being productive is great. Feeling like you're doing something with your day that matters is great, but there's a line. And we've got to find that balance. And every one of us has to find that balance for ourselves, because if you're burning out, if you're too stressed, if you're anxious, if you're not happy, if you're not making time to exercise or to eat well or to meditate, or all of these things that are just so important for not just getting through the day, but for living a happy life, a fulfilled life, for being our best. If we're not finding that balance, and even get into there to like time with your family and with your friends and all these things that are so important. We've just got to be careful that we don't take on too much, that it's actually working against us instead of for us. And if you're showing up drained, if you're showing up exhausted or depressed or stressed or anxious, whatever it is, if you're giving like 50% of yourself to what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't you be better off taking a little more time to yourself so you can give 100% of yourself to what you're doing? Even if it's 50% of the time, you're still going to be better off showing up at 100% of yourself. So I'm a big advocate of that. I take on a lot myself. I've got a lot on my plate, 2 young kids, the mental gym, but there's got to be balance and there's got to be boundaries to
Yeah.
protect yourself. Because again, we're playing the long game here. So when we're talking about taking a day at a time, it is so important to take it a day at a time. But if we forget that we're playing the long game too, we might take terrible care of ourselves in that day at a time. And then the next day won't be that great. And the next day won't be that great. So we got to keep playing the long game at the same time, taking life one day at a time.
And one new rule I had during these past few months was that I'm going to exercise my creativity and then also physically exercise.
Nice.
So, and instead of doing a day full of knitting and podcasting and painting, I decided that, okay, today I'm just going to focus on painting and then exercise in the morning, paint in the afternoon. Tomorrow I'll knit during the day and then exercise in the afternoon and just focus on one thing.
Nice.
So I found that kind of worked. Now,
Actually, sorry, I love what you're saying. In my phone, I have a reminder every morning that says one thing. That's the reminder that comes up. One thing.
oh really?
Pick one thing today and kick ass in that one thing. Don't worry about 10 or 12 things. Just make sure
Huh?
you do that one thing right.
We're so
Yeah.
much alike. Or like remember City Slickers?
I do. Vaguely. I mean, it's a long
Jack
time.
Palance, he said one. That one thing. That one
Mhm.
thing. He told that to Billy Crystal. I forgot why it was the one thing. I think it was the one love or whatever. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I remember that he always said one.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I feel like I got that from Tim Ferriss. And Tim Ferriss had a great podcast that I used to listen to quite a bit. And I think it was Tim. And he just said, everyone's got this list, especially entrepreneurs, this big list of things that you want to do. And you got to, do in a day, in a week, in a month. And he's like, write them down and put them in order. And at least make sure you take care of that first thing on your list. And if you don't get to number 2, that's okay, because at least you did number 1. And then maybe tomorrow you get to number 2, or maybe tomorrow number 2 becomes number 1. And as soon as I started doing that, I felt this huge sense of pressure come off me that I had to get everything done. And instead because what would happen there is you got all these things you got to do. You're trying to work on all these things at the same time. And then a month would go by and I'd feel like I didn't actually get anything done, even though I was so busy the whole time. But once I started knocking it down to just making sure I got that one thing done, well, if I got that one thing done today, and then tomorrow I got that one thing done tomorrow, and tomorrow at the end of the month, I got a whole bunch of things done. And I could look back and say like, oh, wow, all these things got done. So yeah, that was a big one. That was
It's like
one
saving
thing.
money.
One thing.
Yeah, it's like, saving $20 a day. It doesn't seem like much, but then at the end of the month, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Now with the pandemic and everything and everyone, having their new thing. I heard this actually from a soap star because I was watching this. Days where live stars are doing these Zoom meetings and they're just catching up and things. And one of the guys said that after this, they're going to find, hopefully, that physical human interaction, is going to be more appreciated.
Yeah, for sure.
Because yeah, Zoom is fine, but we can't hug, we can't hold hands, we can't do anything like that. So when we actually see each other in person, it's not going to be like that with when you are going to work, for example, or doing something you actually can do now. That after this, we're going to find more appreciation for even the little things that we weren't able to do.
Yeah. So very early on in this whole COVID situation, I realized that as hard as this is going to be, on everybody. And as much as we're going to have to go through a lot to get out to the other side, um, I believe that inevitably this experience is going to be a positive one for us, because we were all running at 100 miles an hour. We were, like we were just talking about earlier, we were putting so much on our plates and we were doing so much, and we had our heads down, and people were teetering with passable mental health, I would say at best, most people just trying to get through another day and keeping their heads above water. And it was no way to live. It wasn't sustainable. Mm-hmm. Individually, in our families, at work, in the world. Like, we weren't heading on this amazing trajectory. And unfortunately, it takes something big and drastic for anybody to make a change. Usually when you make a change in your life, it's because something shocked you, somebody died, the doctor told you, you got to change this habit or you're going to die, like things like that. But it takes this big shakeup for us to make change. And that's really unfortunate that it needs to be that way, but we're very reactive people. We're not proactive. And so, yeah, I agree. I think we're going to appreciate, I speak to a lot of people who say how much more they appreciate their family time than they ever did before.
Yeah.
And how they're, if things go back to some version of normal, how much they're going to remember that. Whether they will or not, I can't say for sure, but I sure hope they do. Things like that, human interaction, all these little things in your life. But what COVID really has done for everybody is given us this opportunity to pause, to reflect, in many cases to hit the reset button, which is so important. I feel like if you don't love who you are, if you're not proud of who you are and excited by who you're becoming, that's okay. But now you get to hit the reset button. Like, if you've been living your 6 and you don't want to live your 6 and you want to live your 10, you're not destined to live your 6. Now you can hit the reset button. If you don't like the way you were showing up in your family, or you feel like you could be better or take better care of your physical health or your mental health, like whatever it is, this is our opportunity to stop, to pause, to reflect, and to hit that reset button and say, this is what I want to be going forward. So there's a lot of great things that are going to come out of this as individuals, with innovation. Social justice has taken, I think, a big step forward during all of this too. So I think there's a lot of positives, and sometimes you got to go through the crap,
yeah,
to reap the rewards on the other side. But I'm hopeful that that's what's going to happen here.
Where do you see motivation coming from this? Is there anything, do you think there's any specific thing that COVID's going to bring universally, I guess you could say, with motivation of saying, okay, well, we went through this and now we're going to go forward and learn from it for next time?
Sure hope so. If you think about any adversity in your own life, any adversity in our own lives gives us kind of two options, really. It can tear us down, beat us down, or it can make us better. That's a choice. It's a personal choice. If you can be better for it, then it's in many ways a good thing that adversity happened, because again, you are better for it. And so I hope that we choose to be better for it. I hope that we remember that, COVID is kind of like this great evener for a lot of people. Like, it doesn't matter if you had more money or you live this or you live that, like everybody was in this together. And I recognize there are divisions there and whatever, and that's a different conversation, but we are all in this together and we've all got to take care of each other. I've noticed over the last few months a real sense of people being more kind to each other, looking after each other better, which I think is wonderful. Possibly recognizing that some of our priorities were out of whack before. And again, I think this leans heavily into the social justice movements. COVID's kind of been this perfect storm for people to be more active in that. And what I hope here, and what I believe is happening, is if you go back to, say, the Me Too movement, what you're having here is not just a specific issue that was needed addressing and needed to be changed, but it was this sense of, this isn't who we want to be as people, as a society. Like, we need to be better than this. Like, we can't treat women like this. Like, it's wrong. And when you hear about some of these abuses and some of these situations, at least I feel kind of like sick as a human being, right? Like, this is just wrong. And so that's happening again. That same theme, I believe, is happening now with Black Lives Matter and with a bunch of things, where it's the more of these situations that can show up on our radar, the more we get to ask that question, who do we want to be as people? Not just in this one thing, because they're all connected. All of these things are connected, right? To who we are,
Mm-hmm.
to how we show up, to how we operate as society, to how we educate our kids, how we make policy, how we let businesses run. Like, it's all connected. It's all part of the same thing. And so the more of us that can realize that this isn't who we want to be as people, we're capable of being better than this, and we want to be better than this. The more of us who can say that out loud, the more other people get to say, yeah, you know what? I feel the same way too. I want to be better too. Let's be better together. And then bit by bit, that can become an exponential effect, and real change can happen. You
Yeah.
know, everything that I do is because I'm trying to do whatever I can, trying to do my part to make the world a better place for my little boys to grow up in. And so every step forward just makes me more hopeful that even though things are bad in a lot of ways, and we're going through a lot of tough times, and we will continue to, um, there's potentially a lot of good that comes out of it. So I hope we don't miss this opportunity. I really hope we don't miss this opportunity.
So true. And what a good way to end it. Let's finish it off that way. So, mental gym, is this a weekly thing? I remember it was like on the weekends.
No, our classes run during the week. As a dad, I do spend my weekends with my boys and my wife.
That's right.
But yeah, classes run during the week. So yeah, it's once a week. You just got to come work out for 1 hour once a week. It's all live online. So trainer-led interactive group classes. You just log on for 1 hour once a week, work out your mind, be a better you, check in with yourself, check in with the other members, check in with your trainer, reset yourself for the week, be a better you. And
Nice.
so, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend. And I will see you next week, where we will be talking about, it's going to be our 1 year anniversary next week. Happy birthday to me.
Happy almost anniversary.
So yeah, next week we'll be back together, and we will be talking about finding your new goal after you reach your dream goal. Thank you, Cory Chadwick. I'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, Shane.